Grace Davidson had a unique condition that 1 in every 5,000 cisgender women are born with, Mayer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome, which essentially means that she was born without a uterus. For Grace, this meant that pregnancy was impossible, and for much of her life this governed how she viewed her relationships and her futures. However, all of that would change when, according to The Guardian in May of 2025, Grace gave live birth and held her beautiful baby daughter in her arms, becoming the first woman in the United Kingdom to successfully receive a uterus transplant. If medicine can transplant a uterus into someone who has never had one before, researchers at the Cleveland Health Clinic in 2025 are looking into the possibility of expanding this treatment for those who are transgender. The UCLA School of Law reports in 2025 that there are upwards of 700,000 trans feminine individuals who can potentially benefit from such a procedure. And of those surveyed, 61% stated that they would prefer biological methods of pregnancy over surrogacy and adoption. So today, we need to dive into the breakthrough medical advancement that is uterine transplants, their applications and their implications. And we need to see that uterine transplants are becoming a breakthrough medical advancement that can give many individuals a new light, including those who are transgender. So first, I'll discuss the historical background, then we'll focus on the applications before going over some implications. Because in a world with uterine transplants, does gender determine who can carry a child, or does science? Let us first begin with some historical background and what a uterus transplant is. A uterus transplant, simply put, is a surgical procedure where a healthy donor uterus is implanted into someone without a functioning uterus, enabling pregnancy and childbirth. The goal is not permanent organ replacement, but temporary usage of the uterus for child implementation and child rearing. As the American Journal of Transplantation explains in 2023, uteruses can be donated by either living or deceased donors, depending on the hospital's program, with donor and recipient matching being based on factors such as blood type, tissue compatibility, and overall health. However, before this option existed, what happened to individuals who were born without a uterus or people who had lost uterine function later in life? Well, a historical perspective will help us answer this. Historically, individuals without a uterus, such as Grace Davidson, had only two paths to pregnancy: adoption or surrogacy. As the American Journal of Transplantation explains in 2024, because the uterus is essential for child development and child implementation, conceiving a child without one was considered medically impossible. This ultimately motivated researchers to begin analyzing uterine transplants. And surprisingly, they're not all that new. According to a 2024 Scientific American article, there have been over 100 uterine transplants performed worldwide, with roughly half resulting in live births. A 2024 JAMA case series of 20 patients found that 14 were later able to give live birth. And while so far all successful births have occurred in cisgender women, the emerging question is whether or not this procedure could also work for transgender women. And while it may seem impossible, our applications just might show otherwise. There are two key applications to discuss today. First is gender-affirming care, and second is biological pregnancy through mitomeiosis. Starting with our first application, gender-affirming care. According to the American Journal of Transplantation in 2025, uterus transplants can provide meaningful psychological benefits for those who are transgender. A UCLA School of Law survey of 182 transgender women found that over 90% believed a uterus transplant could enhance feelings of femininity, improve overall quality of life, and provide a sense of fulfillment. This has motivated researchers to begin analyzing uterine transplants as more than just reproductive health care, but as a form of gender-affirming care for transgender women. However, it's important to understand how uterine transplants function in practice. See, a uterine transplant only transplants the uterus and cervix, but not the ovaries or fallopian tubes. Because the ovaries and fallopian tubes are essential to get the egg down into the uterus and get it fertilized, there are some very key issues because a uterine transplant alone would not enable pregnancy. Think of it as someone just delivered an oven to your home, but it's not plugged in. So how do we plug in the oven? And more importantly, how do we bake a bun that is genetically our own? Well, this takes us to our second application, mitomeiosis. Researchers at Oregon Health and Science University in 2025 have discovered an exciting new process known as mitomeiosis, where adult human skin cells can be reprogrammed into egg-like cells, enabling pregnancy and childbirth. In doing so, upon coming in contact with sperm, the egg cell will shed half of its chromosomes and begin embryo development just like a normal egg. Supporting this concept, scientists at Japan's Riken Center in 2023 did a survey on live mice, where they found that female mice were later able to give live birth. And while so far no clinical trials have occurred in humans, and none are anticipated for the next decade, this research represents a breakthrough advancement and can separate pregnancy into 3 crucial steps. First is a uterine transplant, second is egg creation through mitomeiosis, and finally is embryo implementation through a process known as in vitro fertilization, or IVF, reshaping the way that we think about pregnancy. So, with any new procedure, there are going to be implications, and it is very crucial that we understand both the positive and negative implications of any new surgery. Starting with our positive implications, uterine transplants can open the door for reproductive medicine and give people access to a new light. According to the UCLA School of Law in 2025, the act of carrying a child can carry meaningful psychological, emotional, and physiological benefits, as it may enhance feelings of normalcy as well as provide a sense of fulfillment. Uterus transplants can advance reproductive health care by allowing individuals who have historically not had access to pregnancy get pregnant. Additionally, uterine transplants have applications for transgender individuals. While so far no uterus transplant has occurred in a transgender woman, researchers at the Cleveland Health Clinic in 2025 are highlighting the potential of a major medical breakthrough by stating that the first uterine transplant may occur in a transgender woman within the next few years, if not sooner. And finally, uterine transplants can enhance feelings of femininity for transgender women, providing a sense of gender-affirming care as well as the ability to conceive biological children. But of course, any new surgery is going to have drawbacks, and it is crucial that we understand those today. Not least of which is that sample sizes remain limited, and long-term outcomes are highly limited too. While yes, there have been successful births, there have also been complications. According to Scientific American in 2023, complications such as pre-inclamasia, gestational hypertension, acute kidney injury, and extensive risks to living donors remain common in uterine transplants. Additionally, Scientific American explains in 2024 that uterine transplants are largely experimental and out of reach for many patients, which is to say that those who need a uterine transplant most might be financially incapable of affording one. Additionally, we have to consider racial biases in healthcare when we look at uterine transplants. According to Penn University in 2025, despite Black women being more likely to report race as a barrier to fertility treatment, there are only 2 or 3 known Black and Hispanic uterine transplant recipients worldwide, which is to say we don't have fully complete data of how uterine transplants function. And finally, anatomical challenges are especially prevalent in transgender women, as a lack of vascular connections, differences in pelvic structure, and differences in hormonal profiles can further complicate the procedure. So today, we discussed the breakthrough medical advancement of uterine transplants, their applications, and their implications. We learned that uterine transplants are a breakthrough medical advancement that can give many individuals access to a new light, including those who are transgender. Grace Davidson's story shows that what was once labeled medically impossible can become reality through medical innovation. Therefore, we have to reconsider long-standing assumptions about biology, identity, and the limits of reproductive medicine.